You've probably seen it if you haven't been living under a rock. The 20 Formula One drivers met in Abu Dhabi to raise a glass to the retiring Sebastian Vettel. If we're being honest, that was called for, right? What we didn't see coming was the photo of a 115,000 pounds bill that went viral on social media right after the party was over. So did Lewis Hamilton pay the bill himself? Let's find out. First off, Alex Albon didn't hesitate to debunk the rumor, even though it shocked us. It turns out it wasn't true. Albon dismissed the bill rumor from the Formula One dinner, calling it a load of rubbish. But it's not what you think. Lewis Hamilton paid the bill, but there's just one tiny correction. The bill never reached a shocking six-figure in the first place. Let's talk about the actual dinner first. Right before the race weekend, the drivers gathered together at a restoration in the UAE capital city to pay tribute to the retiring champion, Sebastian Vettel, the four-time world champion.
I hereby announce my retirement from Formula One by the end of the 2022 season. Probably I should start with a long list of people to thank now, but I feel it is more important to explain the reasons behind my decision. I love this sport. It has been central to my life since I can remember. But as much as there's life on track, there's my life off track too. Being a racing driver has never been my sole identity.
Was just about to participate in the last race weekend of his Formula One career before hanging up his overalls to spend time with his family. And it turns out Lewis Hamilton was behind the dinner's idea. Along with that was a picture of the bill circulating that claimed to be from their dinner, totaling a whopping 115,000 pounds. But just as we thought, the rumor wasn't true after all, or at least that's what Albon said, as he gave us a sneak peek of how the evening played out. Following up, here's what happened at the dinner. It turns out that even though we see them as stars and rich celebrities, they're more humble than we think. Albon was pretty frustrated as he talked about how the F1 drivers are normal people who aren't expecting caviar on their plate with gold spoons. It was just a regular celebratory dinner like you'd expect it to be. They set a menu because there were a bunch of people with different dietary requirements, so they had to cater to each one of them. Take Hamilton, for example, who's vegan, as we all know. With that said, we agree with Albon. It was pretty sweet for the seven-time champion to arrange the dinner and even cover the bill. Plus, the dinner was really special for each and every one out there. They had fun, went down memory lane, talked about their favorite memories, and everything you'd expect to happen at a celebratory dinner for a retiring champion. Albon said that every driver's cheeks were probably aching by the end after smiling and laughing the whole day. They had a pretty good time as they bid farewell to Vettel one last time. At the same time, he didn't want to jump into too many details about who said what, and he's not wrong. Because, after all the chaos a six-figure bill caused, it's probably best to stay quiet. On top of that, some memories are better kept personal, right? Not to mention, you can't trust everything you see on social media. It turns out the picture of the bill was actually from the Salt Bay guy, and the F1 family never even went there. Instead, they were at a place called Hakkasan, a Chinese place, so there's nothing more to say about the viral rumor anyway. On the other hand, it's not like debunking the rumor was all he would do. The reporters had a list of questions for the F1 driver. One of them was a cheeky one about which drivers bought alcoholic drinks. But the Thai driver was sworn to secrecy, no matter what they said. Instead, he was forthright about one thing. He knows he'll get into trouble if he reveals any particularly juicy details about the meal. They had such a firm policy regarding the dinner that no one could discuss the events. He could only remark that everyone at the table had some fantastic tales. On top of that, Grand Prix Drivers Association Chair Alexander Wurz even shared a picture of the 20 drivers on social media, saying thanks at Lewis Hamilton to start, and thanks all GDPA members to turn up to show respect to one of the greatest, to one of our directors, and ultimately to our sport, which Sebastian Vettel loves so much. Adding to that, right before the meal, the seven-time champion told reporters that it would be pretty sad to see him leave. The two have an unexpected relationship and friendship that they'll cherish. Coming up, the comeback after an induced coma wasn't easy. Even as we say it, we can't imagine how stressful it must have been. After an appendectomy, the F1 star suffered respiratory failure, which had him fighting for his life. And now he's back to Formula One to race again. win. Now, that's what we call passion and determination. But let's talk about how it all happened. In the middle of the 2022 Monza Grand Prix weekend, the Williams driver was down with an appendicitis and had to go in for emergency surgery. And after that, he suffered a known yet uncommon respiratory failure that held him back for about 2 weeks. Because right after that, he was back behind the wheel, and fans want to know how he managed to do it. The story starts with a pretty wild anecdote between him and his trainer, Patrick Harding, who set the entire training routine for him. And along the way, he kept asking the F1 driver how difficult the routine was for him. Let's face it, preparing for high temperatures and race endurance wasn't going to be easy. So, for the first time, Albon on a scale of 1 to 10 gives Harding a 10. While many people find it surprising, motorsports is one of those disciplines that demands a lot more physicalities than you'd expect. And preparing for a race in Singapore has drivers pushing themselves to the extreme. They'd be soaked to the bone with sweat to adjust to the muggy climate, and their fitness programs are all about lifting weights and running on the treadmill. What's more, Albon's medical condition only made it more difficult. Now, while this would have been a difficult routine for any driver, it was a step higher for Albon, who went into temporary respiratory failure because of a fluid buildup. But what can we say? His athleticism paid off. But while that's the physical side of things, let's look at the emotional side. Right before Harding, the F1 driver had already cycled through a few other coaches. He wanted someone to share his life philosophy as much as his athletic goals. And if we're being honest, that wasn't easy to find. Albon is a practicing Buddhist and grounds his training in a similar humility. He doesn't even want to be seen as the driver or the show star, even though F1 naturally lends itself to this hierarchy where everyone is split into teams, serving the man in the racing helmet. He hates it because there was a team of mechanics and pit crew and engineers there for his racing needs. So when it came to a trainer, he needed someone to appreciate his need for modesty. And right after he woke up in the ICU, Harding wanted to ensure he knew exactly what happened. After all, his body had just suffered major trauma. But along with that, his trainer also drilled down his motivation for racing in Singapore, which at the time was about 3 weeks away. Finally, he never let anything get in the way of his fight in Formula One. Even he was surprised by his speedy recovery and dedication, but now he feels great to be back. He's ready. Also, he's as fit as he can be. He's had a few good weeks of training, and even though they knew there wasn't enough time to return to Singapore, his speedy recovery made it possible. He definitely couldn't have picked a more difficult track to test his recovery. Think about it. A night race on a twisting track with relentless heat and intense humidity? It wasn't the ideal condition for him. It wasn't easy for him to come back behind the wheel. It needed a certain level of intensity. We didn't expect the F1 driver to achieve that right after an induced coma. But then again, we won't dismiss it by passing off such an achievement as a miracle. Instead, this story only proves that a rapid comeback would have been impossible without the level of dedication and grueling preparation he came with. And for that, we're proud of him. That's a wrap for this video. What's your take on Lewis Hamilton arranging the farewell dinner for Sebastian Vettel? And how impressive was Alex Albon's comeback right after an induced coma? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.